was the most feared executioner of the Edo period, known as Battosai, the manslayer. In just half a year, he had personally slain nearly 100 samurai. Countless souls perished beneath his blade. Each of his strikes was swift as lightning, ruthless and resolute, as if delivered by an Oni straight from hell. Yet within this god of slaughter, endless suffering had already eaten away at his soul. For every person he killed whispered desperate cries into his ear in their final moments. Then, on a night drenched by torrential rain as he raised his sword once more to strike, a woman appeared and changed his life forever. The story takes place in the first year of Genji, 1864. 11 years had passed since the arrival of the Black Ships, and Japan had been engulfed in turmoil ever since. Honor the emperor, support the shogunate, expel the barbarians, found a new nation. Clashing ideologies tore the country apart, splitting it between ambition and ideals. Tensions between the Tokugawa shogunate and the Restoration patriots grew ever sharper, and warfare spread without end. A man ran frantically toward a mansion, shouting in panic. His name was Harada, a samurai of the Tsushima domain. He burst through the door to find a group of men surrounding a bound captive. The prisoner refused to confess, and everyone suspected him of attacking the Support the Shogunate faction, perhaps even severing Harada's own arm. But Harada told them he wasn't certain. His attacker had moved too fast. He insisted they'd captured the wrong man. The real killer carried an ominous aura, certainly not some fool who could be caught so easily. Even with his hands bound, the man moved like a phantom, relentlessly cutting down everyone around him. Soon, he had slaughtered every samurai in the entire estate. By the time Soji Okita and Saito Hajime of the Shinsengumi arrived, the Tsushima domain residence lay in ruins, bodies strewn everywhere, rivers of blood flowing through the halls. They immediately concluded only the legendary Battosai the Manslayer could have done this. That same night, Kenshin Himura received new orders to assassinate Jubei Shigura, a senior inspector of the shogunate. Before Kenshin's overwhelming strength, Shigura and his men stood no chance. Yet just as Kenshin prepared to deliver the final blow, one of Shigura's retainers revealed astonishing willpower to survive. That desperate cry for life pierced Kenshin's soul like a sharp blade. He killed for the sake of a so-called new era, but weren't those who fell beneath his sword also living beings who longed to survive? In that moment, the retainer landed a final strike that left a deep scar across Kenshin's cheek. Kenshin later admitted the man's swordsmanship was mediocre, but his will to live had been extraordinary. Kogoro Katsura, leader of the Choshu domain, sensed Kenshin's inner turmoil. Kenshin confronted him. "I've already killed nearly 100 people. Why must I keep killing?" Katsura replied that the shogunate's power was growing stronger by the day, especially the Shinsengumi, whose strength was unfathomable. And Battosai, the very name struck fear into the shogunate, was their greatest threat. The memory flashed back 1 year earlier, when Kenshin was still an idealistic farm boy from the countryside. Hearing that the Kiheitai militia of Choshu accepted anyone regardless of birth, as long as they possessed exceptional swordsmanship and unwavering conviction, he journeyed there to enlist. Facing the provocations of the crowd, Kenshin effortlessly subdued his opponent using only his Batojutsu, sword-drawing technique. His supernatural skill left everyone present utterly stunned. Katsura asked him plainly, "Have you ever killed anyone?" Kenshin replied, "If sacrificing lives can bring about a new era where everyone may live in peace, then I am willing." It was this pure, yet resolute conviction that led Katsura to choose him, and simultaneously cast this innocent youth into a living hell. Recognizing Kenshin as the sharpest blade, Katsura appointed him as the Restorationists' secret assassin. Yet Shinsaku Takasugi saw through everything. He declared that in this so-called festival of revolution, Katsura was merely the Mikoshi, the sacred palanquin carried by the people. But if that Mikoshi became stained with blood, no one would follow it, no matter how grandly it was raised.
姉な若者の人生を台無しにするんじゃ。自分が綺麗なみこしであることを最後まで貫けよ。
Katsura knew Kenshin was now lost in doubt. Though Kenshin had taken countless lives, his heart remained strangely pure, untouched by corruption. Alone in a small tavern, Kenshin drank silently, haunted by the dying eyes and words of that retainer. Just then, a woman in a white kimono stepped inside. It was Yukishiro Tomoe. Seeing her beauty, several ronin in the tavern approached to harass her. Kenshin issued a stern warning, telling them that in these chaotic times, if they valued their lives, they should hurry back to their villages. Intimidated by Kenshin's aura, the ronin slunk away in shame. However, unwilling to accept humiliation, they lay in ambush outside, plotting revenge against Kenshin. As expected before Battosai, they didn't even get a chance to raise their swords in defense. Tomoe, who had just run out after him, happened to witness the entire scene.
よく惨劇の場を血の雨が降ると表しますけど、あなたは本当に血の雨を降らすのですね。
No sooner had Kenshin spoken than she collapsed in the rain. With no choice, Kenshin carried her back to Kohagia, the Choshu faction's secret safe house. When he awoke, he found Tomo gone. She was now helping around the hideout, tending to everyone's daily needs. The others, knowing she'd been brought there by Kenshin, assumed she was his woman. Kenshin urged her to forget everything she'd seen and leave immediately. But Tomo replied that she had nowhere else to go. She turned to Kenshin and asked in return, "Are you planning to kill me too? Just like you killed those samurai?" Kenshin explained that he killed only to forge a new era where people could live in peace. His enemies were solely armed agents of the shogunate.
ではもし私がこの場で刀を手にすれば、あなたは私を。
Her question left Kenshin silent once again. Not long after, Kenshin was ambushed by unknown assailants. Kogoro suspected a traitor had infiltrated their ranks. Meanwhile, Tomo's presence began stirring faint ripples in Kenshin's icy heart. Every time he returned from an assassination, Tomoe would wordlessly wipe the blood from his face, a small gesture that brought him unexpected warmth. The fellow loyalists even joked that Tomoe seemed like Kenshin's elder wife. Yet Kogoro and others grew suspicious of Tomoe's origins, fearing she might be a spy sent by the shogunate. Kogoro even went to Tomoe in person, telling her that Kenshin wielded his sword for justice and urging her not to dull his blade. During a festival, Tomoe said to Kenshin, "Everyone here is someone's beloved child, someone cherished by others." She challenged him, "Is sacrifice truly unavoidable for the sake of lofty ideals? And aren't you yourself also a victim of this turmoil?" Kenshin replied, "To push the era forward, someone must bear the burden of the sword, and that someone is me." But their brief peace was soon shattered. The Shinsengumi captured Gugao, a restorationist spy, and extracted from him a shocking conspiracy. Radical expel the barbarians' loyalists planned to set fire to the Kyoto Imperial Palace and, amid the chaos, abduct the emperor and take him to Choshu. Kogoro resolved to stop this madness at the Ikedaya Inn. But if Gugao confessed under interrogation, they would all be doomed beyond salvation. Kenshin immediately set out to protect Kogoro, knowing full well that a bloody storm was inevitable. The Shinsengumi split into two forces. Kondo Isami led the main contingent in a direct assault on the Ikedaya Inn, launching a surprise attack. Inside the inn, blades flashed and blood sprayed. Anti-foreign loyalists were caught completely off guard. A samurai named Kamiyata managed to flee, only to be pursued by Shinsengumi members. Just then, Kenshin arrived on the scene to provide backup. The two sides clashed instantly. He recognized Kenshin's identity and introduced himself as Soji Okita, assistant captain of the Shinsengumi. As their duel reached a deadlock, Saito Hajime arrived. He told Okita that the threat at Ikedaya had already been neutralized and that he would handle things here. Saito Hajime stated that the current Soji Okita is no match for Battosai. Reinforcements from the Restorationists soon arrived as well, informing Kenshin that Kogoro had escaped safely and ordering him to withdraw. After the Ikedaya incident, the Choshu faction suffered heavy losses and plummeting morale. The Kyoto arson plot further enraged the imperial court, which now branded them as enemies and launched a manhunt. That night, Kenshin rested by the window. When Tomoe approached, his reflexes kicked in. He drew his sword instantly. He had once sworn never to harm innocent commoners, yet now he had broken that vow with his own hands. Kenshin stated that he would not harm Tomoe regardless of whether she had a sword or not. Overwhelmed by intense self-loathing, he wanted nothing but to run away and told Tomoe to leave. Yet Tomoe, gentle yet resolute, insisted on staying by Kenshin's side. Just then, Shinsengumi officers arrived at the inn, searching for remaining Restorationist rebels. Kenshin carefully guided Tomoe as they evaded the Shinsengumi patrols. When Soji Okita finally reached the room, all he found was a set of clothes lying abandoned on the floor. To keep them safe from further pursuit, Kogoro arranged for Kenshin and Tomoe to go into hiding in a rural village on the outskirts of Kyoto, posing as a married couple. But Kenshin hoped their bond would be more than just pretense. He longed for Tomoe to truly stay with him. Thus began a quiet, peaceful life together in the countryside. For the first time, far from bloodshed and conflict, Kenshin experienced the simple happiness of an ordinary person. A smile, one unseen for years, finally returned to his face. The tenderness in Kenshin's eyes stirred deep emotions within Tomoe. Gazing at her reflection in the mirror, silent tears rolled down her cheeks. This sudden, fragile happiness only made the secret she carried feel heavier than ever. Their tranquility was shattered by a visitor, Izuka. He brought news from the outside world. The political situation remained dire, and the Choshu faction teetered on the brink of collapse. He handed Kenshin a pouch of money entrusted to him by Katagai. After Izuka left, he went straight to a hidden base, an act that was witnessed by a member of the Restorationists. It was then revealed that Izuka was actually a member of a mysterious organization known as Anowu. Their true objective? To use Tomoe against Kenshin. Meanwhile, Tomoe's younger brother, Enishi, appeared before her. It turned out Enishi had been aiding his sister all along, acting as her liaison with Anowu.
Enishi, お帰りなさい。弟のエニシです。
That night, Tomoe finally confessed her past to Kenshin. She once had a childhood sweetheart, her fiancé, who had gone to Kyoto willingly, hoping to build a better life for her. Tragically, he was killed in the chaos of the unrest. Tomoe blamed herself for his death. Endless guilt and sorrow had haunted her ever since. If only she had stopped him back then, perhaps everything would have been different. Kenshin made her a promise. Though he would continue to kill until the new era dawned, once it arrived, he would lay down his sword forever and protect people's happiness in a different way. In that moment, lies and sincerity intertwined, and the boundary between love and hatred blurred beyond recognition. Yet the moment that would bring everything to an end had already arrived. The traitor Izuka reappeared at last, unveiling the final truth. Tomoe had approached Kenshin as a spy, seeking vengeance for her slain fiancé. Kenshin also discovered Tomoe's diary. The scar etched permanently across his face, the one that never healed, had been inflicted by her fiancé in his dying breath, with his last ounce of strength. The man's final scream, Tomoe weeping in the rain. Memory after memory flooded Kenshin's mind. The happiness he cherished so deeply had, from the very beginning, been built upon a colossal lie. At the same time, Tomoe herself was torn apart inside. She had genuinely fallen in love with the very man who had taken her happiness away. When the leader of Inoue informed her that the plan was complete and Kenshin was about to be executed, she defied them without hesitation. Learning the truth, Kenshin's heart shattered completely. Staggering through the snow, memories of every moment with Tomoe echoed endlessly in his mind. He walked straight into Inoue's trap, only to face a series of brutal battles. Each assassin had been placed there specifically to wear him down. But by now, Kenshin no longer cared whether he lived or died. Blinded temporarily by an explosion, Kenshin, exhausted in body and spirit, finally confronted the leader of Inoue in the snow. The man taunted him relentlessly, laying bare the entire truth. Utterly broken, Kenshin, deprived of sight, could only rely on instinct, slashing wildly with his blade. He fell again and again, and rose each time. Just as Kenshin prepared to deliver his final strike, Tomoe suddenly rushed forward and embraced Inoue's leader. Time seemed to freeze in that instant. With her last remaining strength, Tomoe drew a short dagger and carved a second scar across Kenshin's face. When it was all over, Kogoro found Kenshin and told him Izuka had been brought to justice. Kenshin told Kogoro that he would continue to wield his sword until the new era arrived. Back in their room, Tomoe lay still and silent. Kenshin sat beside her, reading through her diary and finally understanding the depth of her pain.
いつからあの人がこんなに大切な人になってしまったのか。相変わらず慣れないようだけれど、楽しそうに野良仕事をしている。あの人の顔立ちが穏やかになっていくことを嬉しく思う。あの人は私の幸せを奪った人、殺したいほど憎んだ人。なのにこのままでは あの人を本当に愛してしまう。あの人はこれから先も人を切り、けれどそのさらに先、切った数より大勢の人を必ず守る。ここで決して死なせてはならない。私が必ず命に変えても守る。さよなら。私が愛した二人目のあなた。
Bearing this heavy burden of love and guilt, Kenshin continued his path of battle. In Keio 4, 1868, the Battle of Toba Fushimi erupted, the largest conflict of the Edo period. In the end, the Restorationists emerged victorious, and the new era began. Saito Hajime of the Shinsengumi encountered Kenshin once more. Kenshin merely glanced at him calmly, then plunged his sword into the ground and walked away without a word. Battosai, the manslayer, vanished forever. In his place walked a wandering ronin who had sworn never to kill again, embarking on an endless journey of atonement.